Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. I'm Peter Alexievich, and for me, it's Thursday, September 21st, 2023, day 575 of Vladimir Putin's heinous and barbaric war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. And I want to respond to C. Cleveland 6 here, who was watching my sources and methods video. If you take a look at my profile, there is a video pinned at the top called Sources and Methods. And in it, I describe some of the media sources that I tend to trust and use in making these videos, and that I would encourage you to use as well, clearly. And I also talk about the methodology that I use. That is to say that I think facts are a real thing. Call me crazy. I know we're living in a post-truth world, right? Where there are things called alternative facts. I think we used to call them lies, but today there are lots of folks who think that they can call them alternative facts and people won't know the difference. Anyway, so Cleveland has a great question. It's a great question. Take a look here. How are the Russians doing interference? Like, we know that the Russians are interfering, but how are they doing it? And it's a great question because the sources and methods of the Russians are inscrutable to many Americans. I mean, we would just never think to do these things. And although they have a real impact in the world. And I can give you a couple examples. So let's look at it. So the Russians use a methodology, as I understand it, called seed, amplify, and harvest. And so they put a story or an idea or a lie out into the public, and then they use a variety of methods to amplify that lie to make it appear to be a valid argument. And then they use other methods to harvest the results of that lie coming into the public consciousness in their own propaganda. And let me tell you, as far as I can tell, they do a hell of a job at it. They really do, boy. You got to give them credit. Because let's face facts. If you think the United States of America is your enemy, and you look at it on a map, and all you know is traditional war, well, you know that America is always going to be your enemy because nobody can make war against the United States. It's not a thing. We have more guns than people. Our borders are enormous. We are friends with the people on both sides, or we should be. We should certainly be a better friend to Mexico. God knows Mexico has been a good friend to us. And when we're not making fun of them, we get along great with the Canadians, right? The Canadians. It's like a loft apartment above a great party you're not invited to. I'm kidding. These are jokes. Love the Canadians. So Cleveland, let's take a look here at a couple of things that have happened lately. The Russians need the West to abandon Ukraine. For Vladimir Putin to save face, for him to be a winner in this thing, he needs the West to abandon Ukraine. The Maui wildfires hit. A perfectly normal, expected consequence of climate change driven by man, let's be honest. How can he turn that tragedy to his own advantage? Now, this is not my research. This is the research of a PhD, Dr. Caroline Orr Bueno. That's Caroline O-R-R Bueno. Who's got a Substack, and if you Google her on Substack, you can see her research. It's quite brilliant. She's brilliant. And in this particular example, she traces the origin of the phrase Hawaii, not Ukraine. Now, for anybody paying attention, the notion that we have to choose between supporting Americans that are in distress and supporting an ally that is facing a powerful aggressor intent on erasing that ally from existence knows that it's not a binary choice, right? It's not one or the other. That's not a thing. We're America. We can do both. Come on, give me a break. So it's that false equivalency that is used to create in the mindset of people who maybe are low information folks, maybe who haven't really spent a lot of time outside the town that they were born in, who don't really know how the world works, and who believe that we have to make a choice between Hawaii and Ukraine. It creates in their minds a resentment that overseas somewhere there are corrupt politicians maybe who are taking their money and laundering it when really they want their money to go to help their fellow Americans in Hawaii. And so it divides the country with a false narrative, a narrative that doesn't even have to exist. That's not a thing, Hawaii or Ukraine. But it serves the Kremlin's needs. It divides Americans, gets the question of continued Ukrainian aid into the paper. Ooh, should we keep supporting Ukraine? And it undermines American resolve in the face of the evil that we are facing here. Now, if you look at the work of Dr. Bueno, what you'll see is that that phrase, Hawaii, not Ukraine, was posted by an account with like 37 users on Twitter, a brand new account, or 37 followers rather, a brand new account on Twitter, no prior postings, bullshit. It then got picked up. So that's the first thing. They seed the idea. Then it got picked up by lots of different folks until within 72 hours of the original post, it was all over the echo chamber of right-wing media. Everybody screaming, the Fox host talking about Hawaii, not Ukraine. And so now you have this movement based on resentment that takes hold in the public consciousness. And then Moscow can harvest this mood for their own targeted propaganda against us, further amplifying, further dividing Americans. And that's kind of the 30,000-foot view of how they do this. There's clearly much more to it, but I hope that example gives you an idea. You know, remember Stalin said there are many useful idiots in the West that we can make use of? Stalin didn't have the internet. He didn't have social media to scale this evil the way that the Moscow can today. And they're doing it to us, man. They're doing it to us every day. And when you hear these things from people, when you hear somebody say Hawaii, not Ukraine, know that person is not a free thinker who does their own research. That's a person who doesn't know what research is. He's a socially engineered sucker of our enemies and a tool of foreign power to destabilize and be destructive to America, our electoral politics, and our way of life. That's what's going on, as far as I can tell. And I am bound and determined to bring you all the evidence of all the cases of this that I can. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for a great question. I really appreciate it. Take care.